Alrighty, well, as people are trickling in, we can go ahead and get started. So, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. As many of you know, my name is Shannon, and I work in marketing here at Directions. For those of you that are new here, Directions is an IT and professional development training company, and we work with organizations across all industries to help them train, migrate, deploy, and adopt various technologies. We're a Microsoft managed learning partner that specializes in custom fit training solutions. We've trained organizations in over 70 different countries and numerous language, and we're also a woman and minority owned business. I want to notify you of just a couple of things for today's webinar. So first, we've implemented some polling questions that you should see on your screen, and we would love it if you would just take 30 seconds to fill it out. We want to use the feedback to help us customize future webinars and tailor content to the audience that's listening. If you have any questions throughout the session, please feel free to submit them to the Q&A box. We have some moderators that will answer your questions as we go, and then at the end of the session, we will open it up for a Q&A session as well. We'll also have a special offer for today's attendees, so make sure you stick around until the end for that. We have a wonderful guest speaker today, Julianne, who leads the marketing team and worldwide learning at Microsoft. She's been with them for 14 years and is responsible for scaling customers and partners and ensuring they are successful in their technical roles. So you're in great hands today, and you'll be learning a lot about Microsoft certifications from one of the best. So without further ado, I will turn it over to you, Julie.
Thank you so much, and what a pleasure to join you guys today to tell you a little bit more about training and certifications. With me also, joining me from Microsoft are a wonderful cast of supporting team, which include Debbie Utek, who is the channel marketing manager that supports our learning partners in their marketing efforts. We also have Sandra Marin, who is our Azure GTM lead, looking at training and certifications and how we go to market with them. And then Nancy Tandy, who does GTM for business applications, and which includes Dynamics 365 and Power Platform. And then Geeta Sharma, who also is the GTM lead for Microsoft 365, and as well as security compliance and identity. So they'll be on hand, they'll be answering questions along the discussion, and making sure that we get all your questions answered through this session. So today, what we'll do, we'll spend a little bit more time talking about how to build a learning culture that supports digital transformation, and most importantly, the part that training and certification plays within that equation. Now, you've most likely heard all about digital transformation, so I'm not going to go too deep into that because we don't want to be repetitive. But as companies move from on-premise to cloud-based operations, they do need the skills that are required to be successful in improving efficiency, productivity, but also innovation. This is a huge shift. We've seen that through and through, huge shift. But training can be a key component, and that's what essentially we're gonna talk about it today, because let's face it, change is hard, and we just want to make it as easy as possible for you. Now, oops, let's not skip ahead now. There we are. So what we know by now is that, and you must have heard this, is that every company is becoming a technology company. So whether tech is your mission or it enables that mission, essentially every company is finding that they need to be working with tech in new ways. This is what we at Microsoft call tech intensity. So when you're able to use existing technology to create new technology that gives you new capabilities, that's what we call tech intensity. So obviously it requires advanced technical skills for you to be able to do this. The data shows us that 60% of organizations plan to invest in cloud computing. Why is that? Well, the heart of innovation essentially beats in the cloud, right? Simply because that's where the vast computer power is, and that's where it comes from, essentially. We've also heard that 93% of employers believe that certified employees add more value to the team and organization. That's a huge number, 93%. So as you're spending extra time studying for your exams, keep that stat in mind as a motivating factor as you do that. And then for the managers that may have joined us today, businesses that invest in training see 24% higher profit margins, not to mention greater project deployment velocity and efficiency, and just, I'd say, overall goodness, right? So those have been really impactful numbers that we've seen, and definitely food for thought. So you might be wondering, great stats and all, but how do you actually make learning more pervasive, more accessible for individuals in the company? Well, building a learning culture actually isn't that hard. It's really having a culture that doesn't support learning that can be very harmful. So the incentive to focus on having a learning culture is pretty clear, but what does that actually look like? Well, it essentially includes a few things. First and foremost, investing in training your teams and embracing growth mindset. Growth mindset is a really important component in that. But this shows your values, and it also can make team members more committed and empowered to put the organization's vision into practice. So if you're willing to provide training for your employees, it's clear that you value the learning, and then your employees will take that and help you build a culture of continuous learning. So you set the foundation, they pick up on it, and they continue to build on it. Second is rewarding employees that actually invest time in learning new skills beyond what's required to do their jobs. This is a huge, just that initiative. While there's skills gaps in a lot of organizations, it can be hard to fill roles, and so the retention is key. So this is a feel good piece, right? If you have an employee who's gone off on their own to learn a new piece of technology on their own time, not only do you give her a great new assignment, but you can call her out on call her new skills out to the rest of the team. So it's all about professional growth. I know that me as a manager, this is my favorite part of the job. I'm sure my team will attest to that, and the satisfaction also that I personally take from it. Finally, prioritizing certifications in hiring and recruiting. I'll add to this promotions as well, right? Suddenly the way forward has very clear steps, and potential hires and employees will know exactly the level of training they need to be able to go as far as they want. And that's important, right? Driving that clarity with your employees, but also having an easy tool to revert back to as you go forth to hire and recruit. So what role do certifications play in all of this? Well, certifications are a key component to our learning culture, not only in the proof of skills and expertise, but they also provide real benefits to the business. And so Microsoft certifications are globally recognized, industry endorsed. They're an excellent way to prove and validate that the person has the skills to do the job. This has been endorsed by a variety of different analysts and experts in the industry. And so time and time again, our certifications prove in terms of their validity, but also the rigor that's involved in that. That said, there's a sobering statistic here on the slide. 60% of IT decision makers believe that skills gap costs their employees 3 to 8 hours a week. That's huge. We already don't have a lot of time to waste with trying to do more with less. And so imagine wasting 3 to 8 hours per week on areas that you're just trying to find, that you just don't have the skills you're not equipped with the skills you need to be able to do the task at hand. That's a pretty stunning stat. And then finally, let's look at role-based certifications. IT professionals who achieve role-based certifications perform on average 26% better than their uncertified colleagues with same responsibilities. These employees add value, right? They increase productivity, they troubleshoot faster, there's fewer skills gap, they're not losing time, they're actually gaining time. And so that's really the point to get across here, is that training is not time loss, it's time gained, right? And there's a downstream impact to that. And also, it's and we've mentioned it before, but it's also important to mention that IT certifications, it simplifies the talent identification and recruiting, and we mentioned that in the other slide, but it just makes the screening process a lot easier, and helping to distinguish individuals that have taken the time and made the effort to invest in their skills and to invest in their capabilities, essentially. And so from that, we've seen that 91% of employers believe that IT certifications can save time and resources while evaluating candidates. So it is something that is recognized by employers as well. Now, we've spoken to all of these slides that I just covered here. We're really speaking to our hiring managers in our virtual room here, and to those that are involved in the hiring process and in that decision-making process as well for their companies. But as an individual, what can you do to be part of that, right? And so this is where the importance of getting your skills out there, being able to express what you've taken on in terms of training, in terms of certification, and the skills that have come out of that is really important to put out there and to share with your network. And so how best to do so than with LinkedIn, right? And so what we want to make sure is that your efforts don't go in vain. We do encourage you strongly that after you've completed a training, after you've completed your certification, make sure to update your profile. We've seen fantastic stats from LinkedIn that individuals who actually update their skills, and if we have at least 5 skills on their LinkedIn profile, are messaged up to 27 times more often than LinkedIn members who don't. And then in addition to that, they receive 17 times more profile views. So if you're looking for a job, if you're looking to for a career change or anything of the sort, this is a great option for you to share those skills and to get recognized and get noticed for the efforts that you've made on that front. Highlighting those learning achievements are really important, and it just generally helps you boost that career potential. So nothing ventured, nothing gained. So make sure that you're able to communicate the investment that you've made in yourself. So with that said, let's talk a little bit about Microsoft's process in all of this, right? So I work in the Worldwide Learning team. Just to give you a little snippet of who the Worldwide Learning team is, we are an organization at Microsoft that create training and certification exams and certifications for all audiences. And so it's obviously for technical audiences like yourselves, but we also do so for educators, for students, for job seekers, and a variety of others as well. And so we have a really large team that looks at not only the content, but how we go to market. That's my team. We also look at how we bundle some of that content into programs that can help benefit you as well. So as we go through all of these different disciplines in order to bring you these skilling offerings, there is a very specific process that underlines all of this, and it's how we create the content, which is the basis of everything else. And that's what I want to share with you today, because the process behind it will help you also better understand how to best leverage that content. So when we first have, when we first want to deep dive into a specific solution area, right? So our solution areas could be anything from Azure to business applications, modern work, which includes Teams, and then security as well, which is security, compliance, and identity. So for example, security is our latest and greatest solution area that we've been investing in, given its newness. So let's use that one as an example. As we set off on the journey to create the portfolio of certifications for security, we actually went out and met with a variety of different analysts, market or industry experts, internal individuals, subject matter experts from both internal, external, learning partners, hiring managers, thought leaders, etc. We have a wide panel of individuals that we actually source the information from, that we kind of try to get a sense from them. What are the trends? What's coming up? Where should we be investing, not only for current state, but to, as best as possible, future-proof our certifications and training. And so, so we have those discussions, we have that analysis that we do. Following that, we identify roles. And so we say, hey, for security, here are the top roles that we think are really key for both current time, but also future state as well. As we do that, we then, for each one of the roles, we continue engaging with these, with our panel of experts, and then devise essentially a master list of skills. That's the output from that. The master list of skills is everything that person or that role needs to know or needs to have in terms of skills to be successful at that job, at that role. And so with that, we then create recommended learning paths to achieve that list of skills. Once that's done, once we've got a recommended learning path, then we convert that and all of the learning objectives that are associated with that into all of the different modalities that we create. And so those modalities include self-paced learning. It includes training events, instructor-led training, and certifications as well. And so the intent here is that we understand that everybody learns differently, right? I know myself, I'm very visual. My son, who has some, learning difficulties, learns differently, right? And so his approach is very different than my approach may be to learning. And so, so this is to accommodate all learning styles. So as we create all of these different modalities, we then have a portfolio of training content that is then customizable for you. So for you as a learner, you can come in and choose to start with self-paced training, go to an event, learn a little bit more, then you decide, you know what, I want to get my hands dirty a little bit more, dive into some labs, and then this is how then this all ladders up to certifications. Now, as we identify roles and we identify the learning paths associated with those roles, all of those learning paths ladder to certification. So the certification is the end goal, or the end means essentially, for you to then validate the skills that you've learned for that role and that you've mastered for that role. And so that's how we structure the content essentially. Now, if we deep dive a little bit into each one of these modalities, self-paced learning is based on the training that is now available on Microsoft Learn. And so Microsoft Learn on the Microsoft properties is the one-stop shop where you would find all the resources for training and certification, inclusive of self-paced training, inclusive of training events that might be happening, instructor-led training and learning partners, and exams and certifications. So that's where you can find that information, in addition to the online training content. We also have a variety of different Microsoft training events. So whether those, so you might be familiar with Ignite, Microsoft Ignite, which now happens twice a year, or Microsoft Build, which is happening at the end of May, or the Microsoft Business Applications Summit, which happened last week. So we've got a lot of these events that are large-scale events. We then have another series of events which are smaller one-day events, which cover more, fundamentals or advanced topics, and these are our Microsoft Virtual Training Days. And then we have instructor-led training, which you can access from our learning partners like Directions. And so this training is actually a lot more in depth, a lot more customized to your needs, right? If you're working with a learning partner like Directions, they take the time and the effort to really customize that training to your needs, to what you're looking to achieve, to your learning objectives as well. And then finally, the certifications that are kind of the validation method for those roles. And we have a pretty comprehensive certification portfolio that we'll deep dive later in the presentation. All right, so speaking of certifications, we have 3 different types of certifications that are available that I'd say probably about, time is going by so fast now, but about, I'd say 3 years ago, probably 3 years ago, we revamped our certification portfolio. And so where you might remember MCSA, DE, we then evolved, we retired those certifications to move over to this new certification portfolio that we have today. Now, the approach to role-based certifications is really so that we have the ability to evaluate key performance criteria, right? So the ability to solve problems, the ability to integrate information from multiple sources, and deal with business constraints and achieve specific business outcomes. And so, and that all within a specific role. And so it's meant to be a little bit more applicable to real world situations and demonstrating skills within that role. We have 3 different types. We have fundamentals, role-based, and specialty. And so you may wonder, how do I differentiate from one to the next? How do I know which is best for me at this point in time with my level of skill that I have? Well, first and foremost, I'd say fundamentals is really meant to validate your foundational understanding, right? It has mixed concepts and applied learning of Microsoft technologies. So it's essentially a springboard into deeper role-based learning paths and certifications. For this, there's really no experience required in the area. That's I will caveat that you would want a pretty good base level understanding of technology in order to grasp the concept well and be successful with that level. So for example, I wouldn't necessarily recommend a high school student to start off with fundamentals at a first go. There will probably be an intermediate step before that. Role-based is the next one. This one focuses more on solutions rather than just products, and it's really meant to validate technical skills required to perform industry job roles on Microsoft platform and technologies. There's a few different levels within the role-based category, and that includes both associate and expert. It's important to note that in order to take a role-based certifications, there is no requirement for you to take a fundamentals prior to taking role-based. And so depending on some of the certifications, they may have pre-requirements, but as a general rule, I'd say across the board, there's no prereq that you need to go through these in a linear way, right? You can probably, in some, you could even skip over to specialty, or you could skip over to expert, depending on the learning path for that specific certification. Some in some cases, and we'll go through it in more detail in the next slides, but in some cases, there may be some prerequisites just to make sure you have the right skills before diving deeper into some topics. The last one is specialty, and specialty is a little bit of like a different type of certification. This is where you can validate technical skills and your ability to manage industry solutions. It generally includes third-party solutions or that either are on or with Microsoft platforms. Again, no associate or expert levels in this one, and the prerequisite requirement varies on some of these. So I say to learn more on these, definitely head over to Microsoft Learn. Microsoft Learn, you click down to certifications and overview, and then you can also browse all the different certifications. Those web pages will also allow you to better understand what the objective domain is for each one of those exams, and also how to prepare for them. There's preparation resources on there as well. Directions have done just a stellar job preparing students for certifications. So we've definitely seen students that work with learning partners for the certifications definitely are very well prepared for these exams. All right, now let's deep dive into some of these certification portfolios. These are the slides that I was mentioning before. This one here is our complete portfolio for Azure. And again, we have several different certifications here, and the portfolio really continues to grow. Azure is by far our highest performing certification portfolio, just by, due to maturity of the portfolio, but also to sheer interest. Azure was the one that we first released 3 years ago, and so it's been the one that we've been able to test a little further with and to communicate more broadly. So it has a little bit more of a following just by virtue of that. But you'll see both the associate and expert level here, and again, associate can in some cases be a prerequisite to expert, but you really need to look at each individual certification specifically. Like, for example, DevOps has some prerequisites from the associate level. So I would highly recommend going to Microsoft Learn, and if one of these interests you specifically, going to check out what the prerequisites are, what the resources are to prepare, etc. Now, our next portfolio is the Microsoft 365 portfolio. This one, just given remote work and the increased usage of Microsoft Teams, has been especially popular as of late. We have a commitment to keeping all of this content as up to date as possible. And so in doing so, we're actually doing job task analysis refreshes now for the Microsoft 365 portfolio. Some certifications are planned for release in the next 12 months to further support Teams, but also to further support Microsoft Viva. So if you've stayed up to date on Microsoft announcements, you might have heard about Microsoft Viva, which was announced about a month and a half ago, maybe, which is a learning content aggregator and somewhat of an LMS. And so you'd want to check out both Microsoft Viva and then also upcoming certifications that will come up. And a quick plug here before I move on to Dynamics. When you're wanting to stay up to date on new certifications that come up, updates to certifications, update to learning paths and trainings, and essentially what's new in the world of Microsoft training and certifications, I do encourage you to check out our blog. We have the Microsoft Learn blog on the Microsoft Tech community platform, and so I would very much encourage you to check that out and maybe subscribe to it as well. This is where we publish everything that is updates, announcements, etc. And so if you want to keep up to date, that's probably one of the best ways to do so. And then we also have our LinkedIn pages for Microsoft Learn, as well as our Twitter page, which we again post all announcements on. So if you're wanting to make sure you stay up to date, those are great ways to do so. For Dynamics, we actually just released Commerce Functional Consultant Certification MB340. And so that is now available. What you'll also notice is that we split out both CRM and ERP fundamentals. We split out the fundamentals into CRM and ERP. And so that's reflected on Microsoft Learn as well in those certification detail pages. But that is now available. It was just too much content for fundamentals, so I decided to split that out. And both of those went live in April, but then also ERP went live just last week, actually. So we're just making sure that those exams are actually at a content consumption level that is manageable for an individual, but is also representative of the skill set for that specific area. And so so those two are now available. CRM is MB910, and ERP is just got launched last week. What's important to note here on this one is that Power Platform Functional Consultant, PL200, is actually a prereq certification for all of the Dynamics CE certifications like sales, marketing, customer service, and field service. So that's an important one to note. PL200 is actually on the next portfolio that I'm going to show, which is a Power Platform. So it kind of cuts across there. And here we are. There's the Power Platform. So you'll see Power PL200 right here, Power Platform Functional Consultant, which is that prereq for Dynamics. This year was actually a pretty active year for Power Platform. We actually launched 5 Power Platform, five Power Platform certifications. So it's been a really big growth year for Power Platform. Power Platform Solutions Architect is going live May 27th. So keep an eye out for that if that's of interest. What else is noteworthy here? App Maker. App Maker is actually a low-code, no-code citizen developer certification. It's been hugely popular with everyone. I'd say even with professional developers. So that's definitely something that you might want to check out if again that's of interest. So be sure to check out the objective domains also on Microsoft Learn. And then our last but not least portfolio is the security certifications. And this one is our newest certification baby, launched earlier this calendar year. What you'll see here, we have Azure Security Engineer, which already existed in and already still exists in the Azure certification portfolio, as well as the Microsoft 365 Security Administrator that already existed. So we've moved those over into the security portfolio, and then I've added 4 additional certifications here, 3 associate and then 1 fundamentals. So you now have security, compliance, and identity fundamentals, SC 900, which is actually not a prerequisite for these other ones, but a great one to check out nonetheless. There's been huge interest for security since launch. The numbers that we've seen and just the sheer interest have just been through the roof. So we're very excited on this front. There's, in addition to what you see here, there's also several certifications on the horizon in development, in consideration as well, that we can't necessarily share at the moment. But I'd say again, stay tuned on what's to come, and our teams are very busy and very excited to make that available to you soon. Something else noteworthy here is that all of the exams that you see here actually have just come out of beta and now are GA, which makes it a lot easier for you to go forth and take and get your results right away. All right. Well, you say, what's the best way to prepare for certification? Well, our learning partners like Directions offer just stellar attention to making sure that your learning objectives are met. So they mainly leverage our Microsoft official courses, which are created by Microsoft, updated by Microsoft. They're essentially the source of truth for Microsoft training content, and created right here in Worldwide Learning by our subject matter experts. And so they leverage these courses, which are then delivered by Microsoft certified trainers. And so Microsoft certified trainers are again trainers that have been at this for a while. They are again experts and instructional experts, but also technical experts in their respective areas. They've got validated experience and knowledge using these products and solutions, so they're really a great resource to be delivering the content and for you to get the knowledge and the skill that you need and to have your questions answered and troubleshooted as best as possible. So in addition to the Microsoft official courses, our learning partners also offer a breadth of training solutions. And the operative word here is solutions. So it's not just modalities that are necessarily stringed together, but they go above and beyond and will provide other combinations of learning through online, in-person, self-paced, labs, trainers, expertise, study groups. I could go on. And they do so not only in English, but in different languages, depending on the region. So, so that's really important and just a huge value for our customers and individual learners. So with that, Directions has just been a wonderful partner for us, and we work very closely together. We make sure that they have all the tools and content and resources that they need to give you the best training possible. And so so we have very, very high confidence in how they're able to support you in your training journey. So how do you get started? Well, first and foremost, we'd say I've mentioned a lot of information today, but a lot of that information is actually available on Microsoft Learn. So like I stated before, Microsoft Learn within the Microsoft portfolio of web pages is the page to go to for everything that is training and certification. There you can not only check out the self-paced training, but you can also check out everything that is certification related, all the instructor-led courses that are associated with those, and then can go and schedule from there. It'll also help you understand what is best for you, right? The skills, the objective domain, the learning objectives, all of that are really clearly stated, so that you can go and really identify what it is that you need based on where you want to go, or based on what your learning objective is, essentially. So start there. And then what I'd say is you'll get a very good portfolio of training content to get you started. You may have more questions and you may want to go further. And so when you decide to go further, then I'd say definitely reach out to Directions. They can help you kind of up level from there. They can help you really customize and really make sure and work with you very closely to make sure that you reach those learning objectives, no matter how complex they might be. So, so definitely reach out to Directions. And I'd say with that kind of wraps up my my presentation for today, but I will hand it back to Shannon. I think she's got a bit more to share.
Yes, thank you very much, Julie. So I did want to quickly let you all know about our offer today. So we are going to give 35% off any Microsoft technical training with the promo code Certify35. So that includes any of the fundamentals, specialty, and role-based classes that we discussed today. And we're also going to give you a complimentary exam voucher. And I know Julie touched on how to prepare for the exams a bit, so I just wanted to add as well, when you take a class with us, you get access to a live exam cram session with an instructor. So they'll help answer all your questions, have a little bit more one-on-one attention, and best prepare you to pass the certification exam. So make sure to take advantage of that offer, most definitely. Thank you again, Julie. And I think now too, we can open it up for additional questions. So if anyone wanted to add any questions to the Q&A box, we now have some time to go ahead and answer those.
Happy to take questions, and we have Geeta, Nancy, and Sandra also on the line with us to help answer some of these questions. So yeah, anything that we can help answer for you.
I do see one that came through asking about how often does Microsoft update certifications?
Yes, I believe that that is, and I'll ask my GTM leads here on the line to keep me honest, because it may have changed recently, but I believe that's every 6 months or so. There's at least an evaluation of how skills may have evolved and where there's updates that are required. And so when those are updated, sometimes it's just small updates within the content or within the exams that don't necessarily require a significant change within the title, let's say, of the exam. There have been times where there's so many changes that we actually need to retitle the exam, right? So, but generally that's how we approach it.
Yeah, Julie, this is Nancy with Business Applications. I would add for Business Applications there's a refresh every April and every October that aligns to the product team so that we stay current with all of the latest information that the product is coming out with, so that you're always, current and staying on top of the latest features and functionality. And I think that's pretty standard across all the solution areas.
That's great. Hey, Nancy, could you also share with everyone the certification renewals that we announced recently?
Yeah, so we do have a certification renewal program that we are doing, and basically you're notified within 6 months of your certification expiring. So our certifications last 1 year, the role-based and specialty and expert areas. They last a year, and then 6 months coming into that expiration date, you'll be notified that you have 6 months left to your certification. And then we offer a renewal program where there is a learning path that you can go and take. You review all that, and then you take an exam. And it's not a exam; it's more of blanking on the word that I want to say, but there's some questions that you take, and then it gets renewed. So if you pass that, you get renewed within your certification, and so then it's renewed then again for another year. And so basically the concept is to keep you current with what is happening with each certification. And so instead of having to sit for a full exam, this gets you, it's the delta of what has changed from the previous year. So it keeps you current, it keeps you up to date, and then you renew your certification.
Thank you. And that's across all the different certification types.
Yes, that's across all the certifications, all of the role-based and expert certifications, as well as our specialty ones. It doesn't apply to fundamentals because once you take a fundamentals exam, you have that certification for life.
That makes sense.
Awesome. I have another one about Microsoft official courses and Microsoft Learn content, if they're the same, and are they always updated to prepare for the certifications?
Yes. So when content changes are triggered, they do impact all modalities, right? So if we identify there's a change, so as Nancy was mentioning, for those April and October updates for business applications, as an example, when those changes are flagged that those updates need to be made, then they are actually made to all of the different modalities, right? And whether that is self-paced online content, whether that's through the Microsoft events, instructor-led training, it gets reflected across all modalities. Yeah.
Someone also asked, is certification needed if you go through the training?
So training and certification have two different intents, right? The training is really for you to learn and to master the skills as best as possible for you to then apply them in your day-to-day or to projects that you might be working on, etc. The certifications is a means to validate and have a proof of skill, essentially, for what you learned. And so that certification then is something that you can share with your peers, with your through your social networks, etc. And it's meant to be a proof that we have actually validated that you learned those skills. Someone that doesn't take a certification might have gone through the training and learned the skills, but for an employer or for a peer or for others, there's really no way to be certain that that person actually understood the concepts well and are able to apply the concepts that they learned. And so that's what the certification does.
Great, thank you. Another one just came through. Will Microsoft Learn on its own prepare me enough for the exam?
That's a great question. Microsoft Learn on its own can help prepare for an exam, but and it always depends. I'm a little weary answering this question sometimes because it always depends on your level of prior skill and understanding, right? But our general guidance is Microsoft Learn will help you prepare for certification, but then you may want to turn to other resources to to make sure you're fully prepared for the certifications. Some certifications are actually quite in-depth and quite knowledge intensive, and so sometimes just learning it through the online training may not be sufficient, right? You may need something a little further, and so then in cases like that, you may want to turn to other third-party training, or for example, working with a learning partner to help better prepare as well, and make sure that you're mastering all of those concepts. I'd say, you know, we do have events as well that can also be a tool in your toolbox to help prepare for certifications. But yeah, looking at, and practice tests as well. Sorry, I shouldn't forget those. Practice tests are great means to prepare for certifications. I myself, when I've had to pass a couple of certifications, I've actually turned to practice tests to really gauge how ready I was to pass those exams, and it certainly helped a ton.
Hey, Julie, this is Nancy again, and I would add to that was a great answer, and I would add to that for Dynamics and Power Platform, we often recommend that you have a little bit of real world experience for that role-based or associate level. And then for our solution architect, the Learn is actually a prerequisite to the classroom training. So we do require that you come prepared with the Learn, having taken all the learning paths for the solution architect. But we do think it's great if you can go out and get some real world experience before you go in and try to take some of these certifications.
Yeah, that's great advice, Nancy. Actually, can you, someone just asked where they can find practice tests. Can you share that?
Yeah, it's on our Measure Up, and I think it's just www.measureup.com if I'm remembering correctly off the top of my head. But Measure Up has all of our practice exams, and we update them constantly. It does take a month or two after a new certification has been released, so continue to look back there. Once a exam goes live, you know, give us a couple months to get that practice exam out the door, but you can find all of them there.
Great.
And again,
questions.
Yeah, I was just going to mention again that with our exam cram sessions that come along with the training, we go over practice exams and again, kind of go over those questions to help prepare you as well. I did see a question earlier too about sharing the slides. We will be sending out a follow-up email. We will have a link to the recording for you to view and share with your colleagues as well. I do see a question asking about Microsoft Certified Trainer, MCT. What is that?
Yeah, MCTs are Microsoft Certified Trainers. They are it's essentially a program we have for trainers that essentially the community of trainers that are approved to deliver the Microsoft official courses. They're approved by virtue of you know, the skills that they have, the technical expertise, the instructional expertise, and we not only support them and make sure that they have the resources that they need to deliver the content as best as possible, but they're also actually a source of feedback for us as well. And so both for the content team, but also for us, the GTM team, we rely on the Microsoft Certified Trainers quite a bit to provide us feedback from feedback they've heard from the learners. Or feedback that they've had in delivering the content. So, and this helps us actually improve both our content but our learning products as well. So it's a two-way street with the Microsoft Certified Trainer community.
This is a good question too. Any suggestions on getting our company to provide the role-based training for us?
That's a great question. Well, a couple different ways to answer that one. So I'd say some organizations may have access to training that can be subsidized by Microsoft. So first and foremost, I'd say ask your company to inquire from their Microsoft account executive whether what the options are for subsidized training from Microsoft. And so that's one first and foremost. Some organizations have qualified for this just by virtue of where they are in terms of their consumption of Azure or other products. And what that includes generally is subsidized training with learning partners. And so then you have the option to embark in some instructor-led training with learning partners. In some cases, it may offer additional benefits as well, learning benefits, training certification benefits. And so it may be something to inquire. Beyond that, I'd say, maybe sharing with them some of the slides that we talked about today, right? Which is all the benefits of the training certification. In some cases, gathering the team to do it as a team can be even more beneficial. And there's definitely some benefits that we've seen in doing it as a team if the company can afford having their, a portion of their IT team kind of step away for half a day or a day or something of the sort in order to do that. But yeah, I'd say those are probably the two ways to go about it.
Yeah, and actually I wanted to add in as well because we do actually on our site have some resources specifically for this. Again, as we've discussed how important certification is and how it really makes you credible with your knowledge. So if you wanted to message me personally with your email address, I can most definitely send some of those resources your way to help kind of bring that to the attention of your company.
That's great. That's wonderful. It actually reminds me, and I don't have the link to the specific blogs right now, but we had published actually quite a few blogs on reasons to get trained and certified and how to convince your manager to do so. And so that might actually be something, if you refer to our blog as well, there may be some resources there that you can leverage in your mission to help convince.
Awesome. We got a couple more minutes here if anyone else has any additional questions. I just had one sent to me about what are the benefits of learning in the classroom.
Yeah, do you want to take that one, Chen?
I'm sorry?
Did you want to take that one on?
Yeah, of course. So I would say specifically too with directions, we like to keep our class numbers low. We like to make sure that our instructors and students have a lot of one-on-one attention. Self-paced learning is, as we mentioned with Microsoft Learn, is always going to be helpful with prepping for the exam. But having the instructors with that real world knowledge who can help answer specific questions and really prep you as they're the experts, I think that that's kind of one of the main benefits, as well as being able to interact with your peers, have that sense of community when you're preparing for the exam as well. All righty. Well, I don't see any additional questions coming through. Um, If anyone does have any additional questions, please feel free to send us an email at sales@directionstraining.com. We'd be happy to get those answered for you. Again, make sure to take advantage of this special offer for you guys with the code Certify35. That discounted training and then getting that complimentary exam voucher is going to be really critical and helpful for you. So as long as you have it purchased by 6/30/21, so the end of June, you can sign up for any of the classes throughout our 2021 schedule. So as long as it's purchased by then, you can take it in the future. So definitely make sure to take advantage of that. Thank you, Julie, and all of our moderators too. Today was great. We really appreciate you being here with us.
Yeah, thank you for having us. Have a great day, everyone.
Have a good one, everyone. See you next time.